Hello and welcome. We want to thank you for joining us today here in the headquarters of Make the Road Nevada. We have this audience who we want to welcome you and also you here at home. We are here to talk about the importance of the Hispanic vote in this upcoming election. So we're going to learn a lot today. We want to thank you again. My name is Rita Cibaja. I'm a news anchor from Univision. And we also have two very special panelists who we'll be learning from today. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. Excited
to
be here.
Of course. So we have Secretary Cisco Aguilar, who is our current secretary, and we also have Julián Castro. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Cisco Aguilar. I get to be the great Secretary of State in Nevada, and I love working with our audience here. This is an opportunity to really make an impact on this upcoming election. I think a lot of times the Latino community feels the voice is not heard, but this is our opportunity to stand up and really have a voice. Nevada is one of the most critical states when it comes to the presidential election. We are going to determine who the next president of the United States is. Our vote in Nevada matters, and I think it's important for our communities to understand the importance of that vote and to turn out and make sure that vote is made.
Wonderful. Julián.
It's wonderful to be here with you and with Secretary of State Aguilar. I'm Julián Castro. I formerly served as the mayor of San Antonio, Texas, and the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President Obama. And today, I have the privilege of serving as the CEO of the Latino Community Foundation, which is the nation's largest Hispanic serving foundation in the country that is based in the Bay Area. But this year in 2024, we have expanded beyond California, beginning here in Nevada and also in Arizona. And so we're very proud this year to make investments in civic engagement to make sure that voters here in Nevada are well informed and that they're mobilized to go vote. We believe that the Latino community is so important to the well-being and to the future prosperity of Nevada and to our nation, and that the destiny of the Latino community and the destiny of our nation has never been more intertwined. So happy to be here.
Absolutely, and I would like to share that both of you have been advocates for key issues that matter to the Latino community, like immigration, affordable housing, education, and immigrant rights. So it's a topic that it's clearly been important for both of your political careers. So again, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and start. We are going to talk about the role of the Latino community in politics, in actual politics. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and start with you.
Mm-hmm.
What role does the Latino community play in the current landscape, political landscape, and these upcoming elections?
The Latino community is going to play a vital role in what happens in this election. In battleground states like Nevada that we're in, and in Arizona, and even where the Latino community is everywhere today, not only Arizona, Nevada, my home state of Texas, or California, but everywhere. That means that even in states like Georgia, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, where you have smaller Latino communities, they can make a big difference in areas where the margins are going to be very close in the presidential race. And then also in a number of congressional districts throughout the country, including in California, where there are 5 swing districts, each of them with very significant Latino populations that are going to be voting in those elections. And so we want to make sure that Latinos are well informed and that they turn out to vote. It's no secret that many times in many elections that the Latino community has had a lower turnout rate than some other communities. We want to change that. And we applaud all of the work that's happening here in Nevada.
Absolutely, it's definitely key, as you mentioned. It's a key state, it's a key population, and we just got to change the turnout. Now let's go ahead and move to like a state and local engagement. What are the key challenges that face our community or Latino community here in Nevada, and how does that reflect the national trends overall?
I think the key challenge is engagement, is getting our community to understand that they can stand up and have a voice. But it starts with leadership. It's organizations like Make the Road Nevada encouraging our community to come together under one voice. But it's also, too, putting our people in leadership positions. It's electing individuals to the city council. It's electing Latinos to the school board. It's electing Latinos to the legislature and getting our voice out there. Because I think engagement will start when our community starts to see solutions to problems that exist through leadership. Government has to work for the people. And if people don't believe the government is working for them, they're not going to engage. But it's, again, I think 30% of our community is Latino, but 1 in 5 voters, registered voters, are Latino. That's a significant decrease. And then the turnout of that 20% that are registered to vote is significantly lower than most communities. But if we change that by 3 to 5%, we can flip elections in this state. We have one of the most competitive U.S. Senate races with Senator Rosen, and our community can determine the outcome of that race by a small percentage because those races are so tight. But then you go down into the local levels and our legislative races, and we can have a significant impact in those races by getting out and turning out and voting. And once we get that action happening and we're seeing the results, more people. I want to see a future Secretary of State be from Make the Road Nevada because they understand the needs of our community. When you talk about specific needs, it's about education, public education, because that's the backbone of what's going to change our trajectory. And if we don't have a strong public education system, we're not going to be able to achieve the goals we want to achieve from an economic perspective, but also from an educational attainment perspective.
That's very telling, and I would like to circle back in the numbers. I feel that everybody understands numbers and kind of drive the point. Will you mind telling us those numbers you just mentioned before?
Yeah, so I think, again, it's 30% of our population is Latino. 20% of those registered to vote are Latino. But then the turnout of those that are registered to vote are the lowest among, I think, communities of color. And we can change that. It's getting active, it's getting engaged, it's having conversations, it's being in a community environment and listening to the concerns and coming up with solutions to those concerns together. But I think it's also too important to look at the future voter of Nevada. If you look at the Clark County School District, the Clark County School District is 56% Latino. That's majority of the student population. And you talk about those students in 2030, they are going to be the voter. And we need to start educating them about civic and civic engagement now, because when they become registered to vote, they're going to be a powerhouse. As long as our margins stay thin, they are going to break those differences. And it's pretty significant what we can do as a state for our Latino community.
It feels like it's not only knowing about it, registering, but actually making it to the ballots and doing that. I saw you nodding, and as he was saying, would you like to add anything to that question?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that we can succeed as a nation or Nevada can succeed in the long run unless Latinas and Latinos are well educated, unless they make their voices heard at the ballot box, because they're a huge part of the community here, and they're in the workforce at every sector of the business community here, and so everybody, whether they're Latino or not, has an interest in this community having its voice heard in November, and so everybody should have an interest in making sure that they're well informed. Every campaign should have an interest in making sure they're knocking on doors, they're making those phone calls, they're reaching them digitally. Every candidate should spend time trying to talk to the Latino community, understanding the nuances of the community, just putting the time in. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. We know that campaigns, they target and decide who they're going to go after. Some have more resources than others. This is where groups like Make the Road Nevada come in and are so important, and why the Latino Community Foundation is proud to support their efforts, because we want to make sure that a wide group of people in our neighborhoods, in our communities, are informed and are mobilized, and to fill in some of those gaps and not let people fall through the cracks.
Absolutely. I love that sentiment of putting in the effort, both informing and, coming to the audience and letting them know this is a process that requires a lot. And that kind of leads into our next section, which is the Latino Community Foundation expansion. So this question is for both. Why do you think the Latino Community Foundation decision to support organizations like Make the Road Nevada it's significant for empowering the communities here in Nevada and nationwide?
Well, for us, we believe in building community, in building power, and in making change. And both building community and building power for the Latino community starts with civic engagement and making sure that our folks are participating in the democracy. You know, I grew up with my mother and my grandmother on the west side of San Antonio. And my grandmother had come from Mexico when she was 6 or 7, and her parents had passed away. And she never finished elementary school, so she worked as a maid, a cook, and a babysitter. And she was not very active. She didn't vote very often. But my mom was very involved. She was a hellraiser. She was a Chicana activist in the 1970s. And from my mom, I saw how important it is to get involved. No matter where you are in life, and that you can make a difference in your community. And that's why at LCF, the Latino Community Foundation, I and the team are committed to making sure that we support organizations that are getting people involved, because good, positive change starts with our voices being heard. At the end of the day, what we believe is that here in Nevada, through the power building that Make the Road Nevada does, that translates into more voters at the ballot box, more of our kids are going to get a good education and graduate from high school and go on to college. More people are going to be able to get better wages and get respected in their workplaces. More businesses, Latina and Latino-owned small businesses, are going to get launched and grow from there. And ultimately, we're going to have more representation, Latinos at the city council, state legislature, you know, at all levels, and get better policy out of it too.
Absolutely. Having, you know, the education, putting the force, and then just kind of working together. That's what I'm gathering from that. Cisco?
Yeah, I remember in 2017 sitting down with Javier Valdez from the National Make the Road organization, talking about what Nevada needed to hit that next critical milestone for our community. And when he was talking about bringing Make the Road to Nevada, it was an amazing moment, because we reached that point where we could do it. And it was a point for us to prove that our community cared and that we were going to do it. And under Leo's leadership, I think you're seeing those success points. And we've proven the model, and we've proven the success of what we can drive the outcomes from many, many perspectives. And to take additional investment only allows the organization to become even more active and more engaged, so we can continue to build scale. It's about building scale to a level that's going to be forcing people to listen to us about what our needs are and what expectations we have of certain individuals.
Absolutely. And well, now we kind of stay in the same kind of vein, which is the grassroots support. I think that word is it's buzzy, right? We think grassroots, but let's just dive in a little bit more on that. How the expansion can amplify the voices of the Latino community in key states like Nevada. We know we just talk about the organizations and having this engagement, but is there other options that leaders, people who want to be involved, can partake?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we do several things at the Latino Community Foundation. One of the things that we are also launching here is something called the Latino Giving Circle Network. We have 17 different giving circles in the state of California. These are people that come together and pool their resources, and then they give their money. They make a collective decision to give their money to different nonprofits that are doing great work in their community, including those that work on civic engagement. And this year, we're launching one in Las Vegas, Nevada. It'll be the first one that we launch outside of California. And so tonight we're having the first launch, the first meeting to launch that here. I'm excited about that because we really have done great work there in California. I'm excited about doing that here in Nevada. But we see that as part of building community and giving people who are civically minded another opportunity to get engaged and to direct their own resources and sometimes their volunteer time to organizations that are empowering our community. We also, in the years to come, hope to make investments to help small business owners as they compete for procurement, for instance, at the city level, at the state level, and are able to compete for contracts and grow their small businesses. So there are a number of things that the Latino Community Foundation has been doing super well in California that we hope eventually will come to fruition here in Nevada.
Absolutely. We were talking just before we started recording how, having that and then moving so closer, just kind of, it's spreading these kind of good points. So that's wonderful. Cisco.
Look, it's the responsibility of those that have given the opportunity to serve in leadership is not forgetting where we came from, but also bringing people along with us. So as we're building our teams and our executive teams, is making sure that people on those teams represent our community and making sure they're addressing the issues that we care about, but also being able to communicate in the language that our community expects us to. Look, I work every day trying to be better and better at using my Spanish, but sometimes it's just not as easy because I do get nervous, but I can do it and I need to do it more. But again, it's issues like the task force on street food vendors. We know that is a critical piece of our community, both from a cultural perspective, but from an economic perspective. When you talk about entrepreneurship, that is the truest form of entrepreneurship. Somebody is taking their entire resources, their entire family savings, and investing it in something that's going to help them get to the next level. It may start at a street cart, it may go to a food truck, and it may go to a permanent restaurant. And it's finding the opportunities to be able to support them in those efforts. When people come and try to, fold them into something that isn't what they want, we have to push back because this is something we understand. And it's making sure we're continuing to build the pipeline of future leaders. If we don't give, for example, we created the task force on elections in my office, and it's an extremely diverse group of young people, but it's teaching them how to work within state government so that when they do finish school, they can come into state government with some experience and be leaders immediately.
And don't be shy, you can clap, and this is why it's a live audience. Exactly. You approve, disapprove? Let your feelings go. But now let's go ahead. We talked a lot about the building destruction, what it takes and all of that. Let's talk about the issues that are affecting our community. Issues like immigration, healthcare, housing, the environment, how those issues play a role in this upcoming election, especially for the Hispanic community. Julián.
Well, all of them play such an important role in the decision-making process because oftentimes our community is in the front lines and they feel the challenges the hardest. A good example of that is housing. Here in Las Vegas, people have seen the rent go up and the housing costs significantly. I mean, it's just escalated tremendously. And so they're looking, I think that the community is looking for a candidate that can say, this is my plan to make sure that you're going to be able to afford the rent. And that we're going to build more housing out there so that people have more opportunity to have decent, safe, decent, affordable housing. The same thing on access to good health care. Being able to have good health care when you need it for you and your family, to continue to expand that in the United States. It's been expanded under the Biden administration and, of course, under President Obama, but to continue in that direction. And then on immigration, to make sure that, yes, of course, we're going to have an orderly border, but also that we have a pathway to citizenship for so many families out there who are undocumented, who are mixed status families, that we're able to do both of those things. And I think that the community is going to look for the candidate that is able to say, here's my plan, not only to address the border, but also to address the many people, millions of people who have been waiting for a pathway to citizenship, including our dreamers. When I think about Nevada, I think about the dreamer movement was led out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And dreamers have been waiting way too long. And our immigrants have been waiting way too long for Washington to fix this broken immigration system. And so my hope is that we're going to have a candidate that can fix it. Now, at the Latino Community Foundation, we can't endorse candidates, but you can imagine that I believe that there's a candidate that's going to do a better job of addressing those than another. And
Absolutely.
so we want to make sure that our community is well informed about the choices and then gets into the ballot box, the voting booth, and makes that decision.
The steps that's been, and it comes back to like information. I feel like it's worth to mention that these are issues, and just seek the information of the candidate they want to choose in, and see what's the plan, and see if it fits your personal perspective and plan. And I think that's where information goes in. Cisco.
Again, I think it's understanding the roots of why Las Vegas is where it is. The Strip was built off of immigrant labor, and it continues to operate off of immigrant labor, and we need to respect it and understand as a community what we need, but also understand what we're getting from it. And I think a lot of times, when you talk about politics, you had a casino owner, Sheldon Adelson, for whatever his political beliefs were, he understood deeply the immigration issue and understood that he could not have the fortune that he had. He could not have the facilities and the gaming industry he had without immigrant labor. And again, culinary has done a phenomenal job of fighting for the rights of culinary workers and workers on the Strip. But people have to realize it's the Latino community that built that Strip and continues to make it run. And the fact that they're generating the revenue they are for those shareholders, it's the responsibility of people to understand how that happened. And that's why we have to continually remind them that this didn't occur overnight. This occurred because our community stepped up and makes sure it works every single day. And we do benefit from it, but it's time that we recognize, I don't understand how we as a country can be a superpower and do so many things so well and lead so many innovative ideas, and we can't figure out a solution to our immigration issue. And it needs to happen because it's hurting communities, it's hurting families, and we need to build upon that. And I think it goes to public education. But there has to be somebody who wants to make the change and who's going to be bold enough to stand up and say, this is what we expect, and create a plan and build a constituency to drive that plan forward. But then it goes back to public education is a huge issue. I am where I am because of public education. My mom did not finish high school because she had a young family to care for. My dad worked 3 jobs to support our family. But my job was to go to school. And I had the opportunity to go to good public schools. And we have to make sure that opportunity exists moving forward, because without a strong public education system, we're not going to get the college attainment that we should for our community. We're not going to get those high-paying jobs that we need to get. It is the equalizer, and it is the opportunity to give us the platform we need to be successful. It's our responsibility as current elected, former elected, to go to our community and say, this is our challenge. Here's the strategy. Here's the plan to move forward, and move that forward and get in front of anybody's face that is trying to prevent progress from happening. We have to be bold enough to be proud of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'll just say also that, as somebody that has been in politics, I have a deep respect for people who get out and vote and are active, and also, and this is something that Make the Road Nevada does too, who push the politicians to act. Because as y'all know, it's wonderful to have somebody that looks like us in office, right? But it's even better if they look like you and they do the things that are needed for the betterment of a community, right, of the entire community. And so part of civic engagement is not just showing up at the ballot box, it's also continuing to push once they're in office. And we want to support those kinds of efforts to make real lasting change from policy changes that happen because of the people in office.
Absolutely. Real change. That's holding accountable. How can regular folks do that? What is a way that Maria has something and she wants to hold the public officer to accountable? What can people do? This information that sometimes isn't foreign to us who really benefited.
I think there are a lot of things that folks can do. You, of course, register to vote is probably, if you're not registered, and there are a lot in our community, a lot of Latinas and Latinos, as y'all know, in our families that are not registered. Get them registered. They should register to vote, volunteer to work on or volunteer for a campaign or to make phone calls in any way that you can. Also get involved in an organization like Make the Road Nevada and other organizations that are doing great work civically, and and just to be involved as much as you can. And sometimes it's not even necessarily in a, directly related to the democracy, but, my mom got involved in the PTA because she happened to be she showed up at a meeting and she got involved that way. So there are a lot of different ways in your child's education, in helping to elect candidates, in any number of ways that you can improve the quality of life and the economic opportunity for the community here.
Absolutely. Getting it to your PTA, make the road, Nevada, anywhere, making phone calls. What about you, Cisco?
Again, it's showing up at meetings and testifying on the issues. It's going to public comment and making sure the elected officials understand your position. And the power of the voice is significant there because you get their direct attention. And if you can talk about a topic intelligently and use real data to explain to them why their vote on a certain issue is so critical, I think you will start to see even more change. And also, too, it's taking somebody to the ballot box with you. In Nevada, we have some of the most accessible elections in the country. We have early voting. We have 2 weeks of early voting. We have universal mail ballot. We have election day polling locations. It's understanding if somebody has registered to vote, and we know that 20% of our community is registered to vote, but we don't have the greatest turnout. Mm-hmm. It's already talking to people who are registered to vote because that challenge is already met. It's then saying, have you voted yet? And if not, can we go to the polling location together? Can I help you? Can we talk about the candidates on the ballot? What do you need to help complete your ballot? And it's making sure that whoever it is, it's your entire family, right? We know we travel in families. And if we can get everybody to participate, I think we will change that turnout number, which then will change the margins of some of our elections.
People who have helped build the community in so many ways through their work, through their raising of wonderful families, through participating in our civic life. They've done it through the military and their service in the military, starting small businesses. And so we are part of the lifeblood of this community here in Las Vegas, Nevada, our country. And it's so important that we have our voice heard. So if there's one thing that I hope people will take away is that America is watching Nevada. And what happens here in Nevada is going to be so important to the future of our country. We cannot let what happens here in Nevada happen without the strong voice of the Latino community being heard. And I hope that everybody will take it upon themselves to make sure that they get their friends, their families, their neighbors engaged and show up to vote in November.
Thank you so much for, again, taking the time.
No problem. Thank you, Rita, for your leadership and making sure this happened. Thank you.
And I want to go ahead and conclude this roundtable by saying that this is the important conversations we need to have to get our voices heard as we spoke today. And let's get on the elections and be prepared for elections 2014. Thank you for joining us.